Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Pranchi, you are.
Right, so if other people could switch on their videos as well. Oh, all right, I see you guys now. So we'll just begin now. A very good morning to one and all present here. I welcome everybody to day two of Pravritti 2022, the Career Fest and Engagement Program with IIT Delhi. So life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you. And today we have a leadership talk on the art of making the right choices by Mr. Rohit Munjal, the Vice President of Cultural and Talent Team at Sprinklr India. Predominantly focused on HR working in global leadership roles, Mr. Rohit has over 25 years of global experience spanning various industries. Over to you now, Rohit.
Thank you, Priyanshi, and it's a pleasure to be with everybody. Um, I do have spoken to a few of you, to the campuses earlier, and this is just my first month in Sprinkler, just to let you guys know. So I'm a new joinee here, uh, and therefore it is also very interesting to see what the conversation is about, right? How do you make your choices of your career? And as I make my own career choices as I move forward, I'm still in a learning mode, even after 24, 25 years. And thank you for making me look old by telling that I've been 25 years. But, on a serious note, folks, uh, everybody who's there in this call, the way I interact and the way I converse, it needs to be something which is much more interactive. So ask me questions if you have, otherwise this becomes just a checklist in your educational requirement. And I don't want to be a part of that way, because the only thing I've learned in the whole of my career is that our choices, we deal with choices every day, whether it be in our student life, whether it be in our corporate life, whether we are doing from an entrepreneurship standpoint. Just a quick, I hope everybody knows about my colleagues here as well, Arushi and Ashish, who's there on the call. You guys want to quickly introduce yourself? Everybody knows Arushi and Ashish?
Sure. I'm happy to introduce myself.
Yes, let's do that.
Hello,
Let's do that.
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we will have some great, feedback and our experience to share with you all. But before we begin with that, let me introduce myself. I'm Arushi, a part of the culture and talent team here at Sprinkler. Have been associated with the organization for over 2.5 years now, and have been managing the campus initiatives for this organization. So again, a great organization to be with. I think my experience and my journey has been extremely lucrative, exemplary, and full of fun and learning opportunities. But I'm a thorough TA professional from the past 6 years. That's all about me. I hope it gives you some context whom we are speaking today in this leadership talk. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to you, Ashish.
Priyanshi, can you unmute Ashish, please? He's not able to introduce.
I'm sure we'll get the access.
Yeah. Ashish, can you speak now?
तो यार उनको एक बार बस इंटरव्यू ठीक है फिर अगर ऐसा होगा तो चल 12 बजे एक
Yes,
बार
now
शेड्यूल
I
करके
can. Thank you,
उनको
Priyanshi.
12 बजे अब बता देना कि 12 बजे उसका
Can
इंटरव्यू है
everyone please go on
और
mute? There's a lot of background.
फुल टीम की लिस्ट में अभी डाला है फुल टीम के ग्रुप में
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So great. Thanks, guys, for the opportunity. It's wonderful to be here with Rohit and Arushi. I manage the overall early career talent engagement for Sprinkler across the region in APJ. Been here for about 4 months, so I'm probably 3 months older to Rohit in the system. Before that was with SAP for about 9 years. Have about 15 years of overall experience within the industry. Thanks a lot.
Well, thanks. Thank you, Ashish and Arushi. So now, by now, you would have realized that I am the least qualified amongst the three to talk about the organization as such. But then, let me just tell you that and then we'll quickly move to the topic. Sprinkler as an organization, is known for its products and uh, talent around R&D and technology, and it's now one of the biggest pieces, which it's a very interesting organization where you see the whole product and the CTO org and the entire organization, which actually has developed the SaaS-based product, based out of India, and now expanding across all the other continents. It's a very global company. Uh, the vision is to be the most loved enterprise ever, uh, from a software standpoint, and the mission is to simply make almost every organization on the planet, and their customers. Every organization has its customers, right? So the mission is to make all these customers happy. And how do we do that? You made some very robust AI based products which are used, and these technologies are basically used to do some kind of sentimental analysis and a lot of other feedback, whether it be in the social world, whether the Facebook or the Twitters of the world, or bringing even the modern AI scope technologies to help all the organizations make decisions on what kind of strategies, whether it be advertisement, marketing, whether it be using their modern care facilities, which are the contact centers where they take call centers and all, to take those decisions on a very precise way and reducing the load on hiring so many people to help, do that stuff for them. This whole digital world is changing the way we're looking at data. So there's a huge amount of data across all. Just imagine, somewhere I read, in just 1 month, Twitter alone would have created about 2 billion, social sentiments about a single company. And then how do we really make sense to it? How do we really understand if, let's say, McDonald's is going to launch a burger? you know how do we know whether it will actually work in the environment, whether it be in India or whether it be in outside India in a specific location? What kind of information do customers keep telling me about whether I should launch this burger or not, depending on what my products are? So there are a lot of these great products, pure technology products, which we have created, and most of the Fortune 500 companies are actually our customers. They're using it today, to help them create a much better customer experience, and a unified experience. So about 30 channels, which we all accumulate, and the entire data flows in from there into our AI algorithms using machine learning and a lot of uh, advanced techniques which we use to bring out sense to this. And then on top of that, there's a lot happens, in terms of how do we really use this data, where do we use this data, what kind of models use. So I'm going to not talk too much beyond that. I think you guys will probably do their research at the right time. But great company. I love the place where we have a lot of young entrepreneurial minds who are bringing together something they want to achieve beyond, because these are the kind of companies who are really shaping the future of the world. you know so so with that, let me come to the topic, right? So when I look at career choices for all of you, when I was there in your shoes, I am an engineer as well. I did my uh, textile engineering, and then I did my MBA. So all those things happened to me. Some of them are based on choices, some of them were definitely through luck, because I've never in my whole career asked everybody to completely plan their careers, because it's never possible. It's impossible. You can't just plan your career every time, everything, right? You have to do trade-offs. A lot of times you do that when you make those career choices. So, but those trade-offs also have to be a little thought through. You need to understand where you are and what you really want to do and what you can let go at a certain point in time. Because I'll tell you, in my time, when I was, like, let's say, take by 20-25 years back, we had very limited choices of what we want to do, and therefore the trade-offs were only a part of those. In the current generation, you're privileged to have so many choices in front of you, but then at the same time you also are in a dilemma, because you don't know what's right and what's not right. So I'll break it, since everybody here in this room is more or less an engineer. I'm going to break it down to a very simple discussion. Let's say, post your engineering, what are the options you have, right? Broadly, if I have to redo my own career, either you do a higher education, let's say you move into research, or you do into civil services, or you plan to do an MBA or whatever it is. So that's one cohort of people who might be there in this room who are thinking like that. Then there would be another cohort who want to start their own, and that's IIT Delhi, right? So, and I'm sure there are a lot of other IITians also in this room. So you want to start your own, great. I've seen great entrepreneurs right from college getting into this whole field, and they also have certain aspirations in their mind. So that's the second career choice. Then there's a third sub B of this, which I want to start my own, but I'm not sure, right? But I want to start something on my own, maybe 1 or 2 years of experience somewhere, and then I will start something on my own. And I'm sure there's a lot of people in that category who literally want to be there, but they're, maybe it's a risk, or a family pressure, or a financial pressure, or in general very calculative, that I don't know what I don't know, therefore I want to just get somewhere and get the experience. So there's that third cohort of people. And then there's obviously a fourth set of people who would like to be in employment, uh, maybe like me, who was there in the last, when I started my career, and climb the corporate ladder, go through the long cycles and great fruitful cycles of joining a company, and literally looking at aspects of moving geographies, moving functions, moving roles, and literally build a long career in one organization or a bunch of organizations. These are the four cohorts, very simply, in anybody's mind. Okay. um, let's for a second take out the higher education piece, because that's a very individual stance. And by now, I think if you're in third or fourth year, you would probably made some progress in that area, saying, okay, I want to be in research, or I want to be in that area, and therefore I want to go back, or go out of India, or be in India and do something. So I'm not going to touch that part. I'm going to focus on two things. One is joining a company, okay, and the second is I want to start up, but let's say starting up after 2 years down the line. Because if you're going to start up, so right after the college, there must be a maniacal idea in your mind, and you are completely glued to that idea. So I can't talk about it, I can't experience it, because those people are very clear about what they want to do on those kind of ideas, will not need any guidance from me. They will just jump into it. So let's keep those two cohorts ahead. So therefore, what remains right now is that you actually, sorry, should I take questions in between, or maybe we can just let me complete the overall philosophy I'm talking about, and then we can just pause and take some questions in between. Okay, if that's helpful. I'd love those questions. I just want to answer those questions, and I don't want to waste time on giving too much of gyan. So in my mind, when you look at these career choices of joining a company, you got to know a little more about yourself. As someone who believes that this is what I want to do, all right, or this is the stream I want to get in, right? So if you are on the technology side, then you probably would look at various companies. So let's say you want to start your own startup in the next 2 to 3 years. A great kind of organizations would be companies who are, let's say, C, D, E series funded. I don't know if you know these terminologies, but basically startups who have literally gone through a journey of 2 to 3 years. And I will tell you why I'm not suggesting to join a company which is too early also in a startup, because they're like you guys, they're also exploring. So too much of confusion is also not needed. You need to get into a kind of startup where they have, let's say, crossed 3 or 4 years of experience, and they actually know they've crossed the proof of concept, they got some funding, and they're very clear about some ideas, and therefore they're focusing on solving some real problems which are there, for which they exist today. What is the purpose of that organization is very clear, right? Like, for example, Sprinkler as a company, they went through a big evolution, right? While it started almost, what, Ashish, 10, 10, 12 years back, right? But the real, and it all started with a social suit, right? We just wanted to, uh, it was just a record keeping, social suit, sentimental analysis kind of a company. But then it, over a period of time, as the products keep coming in and the customers wanted more and more of us, we started inventing those product lines for them. That's how the whole Sprinkler story, and a lot of startups work like that. So if you're thinking to look at those kind of environments where there is madness, but there is some method to it, like let's say, so you look at those 3 4 5 years experience kind of companies where they are really looking at talent like you, who would come and solve things on a basic principle. So see, so one of the fundamental things which, and all engineers know this, is that we got to do grounds up thinking. We got to understand different ways of solving the same problems which have been solved in the past, and innovation is the key. So a lot of companies admire people who are risk taking, and this, I'm also talking on behalf of Sprinkler here and my some of the companies I work. And for example, I work with a company called Ola, and all of you know that name. Uh, I was the HR head for that company for 7 years before I joined Sprinkler. you know I see a lot of similarity between Sprinkler and Ola in many ways, because how we, and I used to go and get young talent like you on board, and throw them in the fire. I remember that even some of the operations, some of the very basic stuff was solved by IT teams, where we could not just not literally put a process around it. Because you know the fundamental thing which you all need to know is, if you are, let's say, if you have an analytical mind, okay, look at, let's say, an analyst career. uh, Look at some of these options which are available to you, like a business analyst, or at least getting a starting point in some of these organizations where you can really bring those values. Then you can move around in your career choices to get much more exposure. What I'm basically trying to tell you is, joining some of these organizations will bring you a wholesome exposure of many things at the same time. Because remember, you're restless. You want to do something, and that will not go out. Your energy is amazing, right? So you want to do, let's say, what in my time used to do in 10 years or 15 years, you want to do it in 2 years. Because you are intelligent, you're smart, you have technology, you understand everything. You want to do that so that you can do your own stuff later, right? So a lot of times I feel that uh, getting too much uh, hell-bent about only kind of role in these organizations talking about, will also not help you. So I want to be only a technical analyst, or I want to be only a developer. uh, Again, I don't want you to lose the thought. I am talking about those cohort of people in this group who want to start their own. I will come to the second cohort later. All right. So people want to start their own companies. They want to start something on their own in the next 3 4 5 years. This is important, that they do not hung up in only one kind of roles when they look at these organizations. Because remember, when these organizations will not leave you if you're good, they will throw you into everything. That's what I've been doing. My 7 years in Ola, and now obviously in Sprinkler, I see this is the way it has happened. One person has not done one role in every year. I would have seen about one person doing 6 jobs in 7 years. I did about 9 jobs, okay, in 7 years. Whether it be HR, whether it be marketplace, whether it be real estate, information technology, and these will come at you if you keep performing. All right. And now I'm going to pause here in terms of the cohort I'm talking about, from a startup mentality, moving and getting your own stuff done. Let's move to the second cohort, which is much more structured. And let's say you want to go into consulting, or you want to go into uh, things like pure technology. You want to grow up the ladder, you want to become an architect or a principal architect over a period of time, or you want to become an engineering head or engineering manager, a CTO of an organization, or an HR head like me, right? So there is a lot there where you need to keep in mind while you're in the organization, and also when you're getting in. One thing is common in everything: you got to be open And I was actually talking to one of the ITNs who joined us yesterday. We are having an evening, kind of snacks together. Two of them, I don't remember their names, but he was telling me that I joined as a developer in Sprinkler, and while I'm really liking what I'm doing here, it's real good fun. I know what I'm trying to solve. It takes me too much of time, but then it's okay. I'm learning, but I really don't know how this is getting seen in the final product. I said, great feedback. We should get you meet the product guys, and you should go and talk to them. Who's stopping you to go and talk to the product guy and understand what the code I'm writing, how is it impacting your product, and how is that customer being impacted by writing that product lines, that code lines, right? Now that's the kind of attitude we need, in all companies, not just Sprinkler, in everything. Every company which wants to really hire a good talent in their organization, they want to know those people. Whatever they're doing, they could be like siloed in one place, but they should have the hunger of understanding what impact it's going to make to the eventual product or the eventual stakeholder. The stakeholder could be a customer. The stakeholder could be a internal customer, like an employee. But most prominently, the customer obsession has to be extremely high to get these things out. Um, just keep in mind, I don't know if has anybody heard this concept of board of directors of yourself. Okay, if you're not, you should just do some googling on this. It talks about you as a person. You should have board of directors for yourself as a person, and I call them as personal brand in many ways. First of all, you should have a set of mentors, right? Now these are who are these people? They are kind of your trusted advisors who will keep telling you what are your decisions. If you're not made one, you don't need to be in an organization to do this, by the way. It's there in your environment. And I have seen a lot of students who actually work on this. So let me just quickly tell you about it. And someone please keep a time check. I have this habit of moving very digressing. So one is the mentors, right? Trusted advisors, people who will literally tell you some of the choices which you're doing is doing good or not. Okay. The second is I call them huggers. People who hug you, whether you're making a right or a wrong choice, but they'll be like your uh, badiyas, chadi badiyas, or their extended families, but they will still give you some information about yourself, whether you're doing a right thing or a wrong thing, and they will love you for whatever you're doing. But they're huggers, Okay, so we need those guys as well in our lives. And then everybody, probably not everybody, but most of us need to have some kind of role modeling in our mind. Ronaldo is this, or Bill Gates, or whatever. So we need to have something in our mind which some persons whom we need to aspire to be, to relate to in our lives. Of course, in organizations, one particular cohort becomes extremely important, which is your peer group. So even and why I'm telling you all this is related to the topic we're discussing, because whether you are a student or whether you're an organization, all these people will help you a lot more to either take a decision or do a trade-off on that decision. So this cohort I'm talking about is a peer group. What is a peer group? Right now, your peer group is all the students you have right now, and it's a competition, right? And at the end of the day, who does well, whatever, you also have healthy competition around that. Today, organizations have evolved a lot to have peer groups as well. In fact, some of the companies actually do something called as a 360-degree feedback system, where even the peers evaluate you, okay, how you're doing on your job. So it's no longer, organizations are not no longer about individual heroism. Okay, organizations are about enterprise. How do I help Ashish be successful? How does Arushi help Ashish, or how does Ashish help the developer, and things like that? So there's a peer group. So if you're a business analyst, then all the other business analysts are your peer group, or you're working on that team. So how you with them, and how they helping you make those choices in your career, whether you're in the organization. There are two more quick set of people who are very important for us. One is the connectors. Um, okay, other than the other board order. What are these connectors? The connectors are, the unlocks which you need in an organization. Uh, like I need a connector. I'm new in this company. I need a connector like Arushi. Arushi will tell me because she's there for some time. So I'll tell her, hey, do you know where I'll find this information in the organization? While the organization would have created a lot of tools and technologies for me, but what comes from Arushi will be much more meaningful for me because she has gone through that process, right? So we need to find those connectors who will help you move faster, or get information faster for yourself so that you can make those decisions in your mind, whether it be at work or whether it be outside work, or a lot of personal anecdotal data about the organization. Organizations are not about some processes. It's like a tip of the iceberg. The whole iceberg is below. You just see the tip, right? The whole thing is below. You just experience it as you go. So the connectors here give you that kind of information. आई एम श्योर आपके वहाँ पे कॉलेज में भी ऐसे लोग होते हैं, तुझे पता है क्या हो रहा है, वहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है, देखो इंफॉर्मेशन, द नारद मुनीज. Okay. Now, the last but not the least is something we call as sponsors. Okay, this is very different than mentors. Mentors will not take you to somewhere and position you. Okay, they will not. They will help you, they will give you information, they will advise you, but they're not going to be you know sitting on your head and trying to make sure that you become successful. Sponsors are those people who spot you, and these are typically senior people in the organization who have power and who have access to a lot of choices which you can make in your career. So having a sponsor outside or inside the organization is, in fact, I have made all my career choices using sponsors or mentors. I have never used any other forum. So if there is someone in the organization who truly believes in what you're doing and he or she feels that you're not getting too visible about it, these people come forward and really help you to scale up to that chair. Because let's face it, all of us have our development areas and all of us have our strength areas. And again, this is very important, guys. Even today you should know very clearly what are your strengths, what are your development areas. Whatever jobs you pick or careers you pick, you should keep this thumb rule in your mind that it should be about you know two or three strengths and one or two development areas as your first job. So if you do a SWOT analysis or do a little bit of thinking about yourself, X is good. I am good in analytical thinking. I'm a problem solver, but I don't speak too much. I'm not able to be. I'm not very expressive. You need to find out that these kind of ways to really figure out what kind of jobs will be the best for you to land in. If you land in a job which has three development areas and one strength of yours, then you're going to be literally beating yourself up. And it happens. I've seen this happening in many places. Just because you saw some great guy doing that job and you like herd mentality, you went there. Pick up something which you feel comfortable as a landing ground. Okay, again, don't confuse this with what I just said in the past, that be very choosy, don't be very choosy about what you're picking. I'm saying pick up a role or a job which you're being offered where you see these traits of yours as a behavior traits coming out very clearly. So I hope I'm going through we're talking in terms of what I'm trying to say. So I wanted to quickly take this time and give you my 2 cents around what are the board of directors. Be your board of be the CEO, be the CEO of yourself. Okay, and these should be your board of directors who will help you. I think as an activity, if you can go back and write that in your own personal mind or a diary, who are these people? Okay, it will really help you to come out of all this. Now, and in my first statement, I gave you, the choices are three or four of them. Just to summarize, you want to do higher education. I'm not talking about here because that's something which is very individualistic to you. I'm sure that's a decision you would have made. You want to start up on your own day one. I'm not talking about right now. All the best, because that's something uh, is a great thing, and nobody can take that from you. You just want to get into the fire. I mean, that's okay. That's fine. And I'm sure there will be some ideas which you will get in. What I spoke about was moving into a company. How do we make those kind of calls? Which kind of jobs you should look at? What you think you should be keeping in mind when you look at those roles? And the second one was, you still want to do a startup, but you want to take some experience. So what kind of flexibilities do you need to give yourself before you get into these jobs? Um, the whole world is looking at like that. Me and my team, whether this team or my earlier teams which I work with, I can assure you this is the kind of things we look for in people when we hire you guys. These are the small traits which say how much open is it in this person. I remember one of the IITians I had hired, IIT ISB combination. I mean, we have some success stories here. We'll talk about that quickly. um, the guy said to me from day one, I remember that statement, I want to be in the founder's office. Just throw me in. I said, you're so young. Just your first job. Do you know what it means? You can be fired if you're not able to produce results, because that's like an error in that office means you're out. So he said, okay, I'm going to take that. But then I spent time with him to understand what is he trying to do. Same discussions which I am having with you people right now, I realized that he is putting three of his development areas online, you know. And I told him, I guided him, like, don't do this. Let's wait for 6 months, get used to, just understand this organization a bit more, because that place is a plethora of things which you will get bombarded on, and people will not really think, they will want you to expect to deliver very soon. So he took that call. I know that it took him about, instead of 1 year 6 months, it took him 1.5 years, but in 2 years of time he was there in that office and delivering results. Okay. And before that, he did about 4 roles in various parts of the company, right? Sprinkler, for example, is one of those organizations, which allows these kind of movements and exposures. While you can go into one deep area, but then there's so much to be done, so many organizations within them who talk to each other. You can start somewhere, and then if you're good, you could just move on and look at internal mobilities. um, there are a few people we could talk about. Even our CTO Pavitra Singh, who's right now who just joined about 10 years back. He was running his own company, just joined as a director, and there he is. I mean, he's running the whole show. He's such a young person, and it must be about 36, 37 years of age, and he's the head of the entire technology implementation consulting teams and all. I also have two IIT Delhi folks, right, Arushi, um, who are, as early as about like 4 or 5 years, and they're VPs in our organization. One of them is actually handling the modern research product development. I think 2016, right? Utkarsh, 2016 or 2017.
Yes.
So there
Yes,
are these
Aditya's
examples of high
presentation.
track growth, high track growth. 5 years, 6 years, exponential growth and exponential exposure about different kinds of product lines. You can exceed in organization like ours, like Sprinkler. And there are many more such organizations. You need to just make sure that, as I said, keep in mind what I told you. Don't overstress yourself and over ambitiously do something which will not be helpful in the shorter run. Life is still a lot more, you know, uh, from a standpoint of what you really want to achieve. So there's a lot time, and sometimes people take a little more longer time. Sometimes they take a little, very short time. But keep that thumb rule in mind: three strengths, one development area, not the other way around. Whenever you pick up a job or a role or within what you want to do. Uh, with that, I will just show you these three quick um, figures which I spoke about. One is Pavitra, I spoke about him. Um, Abhishek, if I'm not wrong, he's in IIT Delhi. I am IIT Delhi and I am guy. I am 2017, right? Look what the progress this person has made. I'm sure some of you would know. Overall, just 6.5, 7 years of experience, guys. He's a vice president in the company today. And look at Utkarsh, again, 6 years. He's not even an MBA. I think he joined fresh from IIT Delhi, campus grad, just grew up, and he's heading our product engineering. So that's the kind of opportunities you get in some of these companies who, if you take those right calls at the right times and these choices, and it's very difficult to retain some of these people, right? Because they're very entrepreneurial. And sprinklers stand, the way we think, you got to be entrepreneurial. You got to be, living core values are about, taking high risk, thinking big. Some of these things are so important ingredients of how you develop yourself as an individual, as an entrepreneur, or as a professional, that it stays with you, and any company then wants to buy you. You're typically in the market if you want to be in the market. And I can tell you that some of these guys would have made millions from a financial standpoint. They're very, very well paid, um, because those criteria also start coming in once you cross a certain hurdle of creating that value or a brand of Pavitar or brand of Abhishek or brand or Utkarsh in the organization. So I'm going to leave it because there are a lot of questions. Let's leave it here and now go to the questions, because I think we just have about 20 minutes left. So I want to spend more time on that now. So who's going to help me on the questions, please? Or should I like?
I can
Oh,
definitely help Rohit. So we
yeah.
have first question in the chat box from Gotham. He says that you said about having a role model. I would like to know who was your role model and why.
So my role model is a person by the name Dave Ulrich. And he's he's a person who actually has really revolutionized the way human resource function needs to be perceived. Because I'm an HR guy, right? So I moved into HR about 20 years back. I started as a sales guy, and then I moved into HR. But once I moved into HR, some of these things extremely, for example, the human resource function has evolved from just being a personal management or a salary generating function to today bringing a lot of external in perspectives from the organization. So Dave Ulrich, and even doing a financial metrics around and quantifying how HR's contributions are uh, in the organization. It's very difficult to quantify a lot of things which HR people do or HR function does, other than the recruitment, because it's not about numbers. Feelings are not about numbers, or how you create happiness. You can create metrics around it, but it doesn't really come naturally. So Dave Ulrich is one personality. For the last 40 years he's been in the industry, and he's created a lot of these things, written books on it, creating HR scorecard. And I happen to also meet him personally. So he's been a real vision for me. A lot of things which I do in the organization, I keep in mind the competencies he has created for HR professionals to be successful in wherever they do. But thanks for asking that question. There are many more, by the way, but he's probably the one who stands out. One of the other person I can think of is my college. I'm from XLRI, post my engineering. So one of my college seniors, Lena. So she was basically uh, the HR head for Unilever worldwide, and then she became a CEO of a company recently, and it was all in the news. The same day, when the same around the same month when the Twitter CEO came from India and all that. So another person becoming a great, you know, personality, and 35 years with the same company, growing from campus. She joined Unilever, and then she moved back, to become the CHRO for that global organization. So there are a bunch of these guys who inspire me, um, and keep me going. What else?
Great. Thank you so much, Rohit, for that one. I hope, Gautam, you got your answer. The next question is from Ritika. She says that, as you said, this generation has many choices. This creates a lot of confusion as well. How to overcome this?
Yeah. So again, if you go back to what I said, uh, the choices are for good. I mean, have that thing very clear. There's nothing good, there's nothing bad about it right now. The good thing is that you have options in front of you, and you are very clear that you got to be using those thumb rules that I spoke about. Let's say there are 5 things in front of you, okay, and each of them look great to you. You can go here, you can go here, you can go here, you can get it. What I'm only trying to do is, the way to solve this is go deeper to understand. And if you have job descriptions of those, nothing like it, and we do something called as a job description, where you have what this input and the output of the job is, right? So what will be the input criteria, what will be the output criteria? So let's say, um, there's a talent acquisition person sitting here, right? So Arushi's job, what is the input criteria for it? What are the things needed from her to go into the job so that she can be successful? And what is the output of that job? So let's say hiring so many number of people, or creating a brand of Sprinkler in across the campus. So these are output. These are all indicators which will talk about how she's performed in the job. But what are the input criteria, right? What are the things she need to have to be successful? For example, understanding of how campuses behave, right? What is the overall strength of all the kind of technologies which are available today in the organization? So what I'm trying to tell you is, anything which you're trying to do and making a choice of career, understand the input and the output criteria for those kind of jobs. Okay. And then after you've done that, do a bit of research on that, talk to people who are actually doing that job. Okay. Very, very important. uh, if you can, and we can help you do, our team can help you to also do that. But, and this is where I talked about those connectors, right? Who've done this, seen the movie, I say, some people have seen that movie. You talk to them, right? Or how's the movie? So this is how you can get on those 4 or 5 choices information. So get that information very clear, and then relate to yourself. Does this see as my landing job based on the 2 or 3 strengths or development areas I have, or does it doesn't resonate with me? I can only help you and guide you from that standpoint, because somewhere that has to be a match on what you want to do. Once you've done that, let's say you have 3 or 4 such things, right? You take that to some of your mentors or your people or even huggers, and bounce that off from them, saying, okay, these are the 3 things I have zeroed down on. What do you think, how I'll do on this? And give them the whole information. That's something I used to do before college, before I did, and then after, like, I got married, I used to do it with my wife. I do, after got married, she became a bouncing, uh, you know, thought process in terms of whether this is the right thing to do or not to do. Because you're right, there's so many choices you will always have, and as you go up the ladder, people think that the choices will narrow down. It's actually the other side. If you're a top performer, if you're a above average performer, your choices will actually go much more than just one in one way. Even the principal architect of our organization, whom you think is like a complete, a vertical in itself, has choices, and he will always have choices. It's about how do you really match these and bounce it off with a bunch of things. I hope it's not looking at a very Gyani session. I just want to make sure that you guys understand this is actually what happens in your mind when you take those calls. I hope I answered that question. What next?
Okay, all right. So, um, you want to take any more questions from the chat?
Yeah, I think that's going to be great. How can we be financially independent in our 20s? Look, I'm not a financial expert, but then I think this one thing which you guys should do definitely. And today we are living in the worlds of Zerodhas and the Grow and the Upstocks. I don't know if you heard these companies' names. You should go and check one website. I'll probably share with you. Zerodha has that, and an educational document which talks about early investors. Okay, I don't think it's it's very difficult to become financially independent. Whatever things you carry on in your early jobs and all, small investments on some of these areas like mutual funds and all, you need to put that out there. In fact, a person like me started having financial independence much earlier, but then I probably realized that I would have done much more in my 20s, right? And you guys again have so much of information on your table. You should definitely look. If you've not seen this, you should definitely look at. I probably share that link. They have a complete education document in terms of what can make you financially independent and what kind of choices on financial investments you should make. When you're in such an early stage. Remember one thing: do not do this at the cost of your careers, because a lot of times unless you are sure that this is the only thing you want to do in your career. Okay, so I've also seen some people just leaving everything and just getting into investments and building their careers out of it, and that's great. But then you should be very sure of what I just said, in my past 20-30 minutes, that this will then come in the first two categories: either education or startup. This is like a startup. You are like throwing yourself completely into it. But you want to get a job and be financially independent. Look at some of these options you have in your mind. Go through these areas. Look at small SIPs, mutual funds to start with, high risk ones as well, because you have the whole career ahead. And that's how you will become much more financially independent than I would have been when I was in 20s. Okay, doing
Um,
job in various organizations, kind of exploring ourselves, isn't, sir? I like this question. So indirectly saying we keep moving from one organization to another organization. It will help. Um, I'll tell you. Um, Again, so I think this was a question, right? So Mohit, if Mohit has asked this question, I guess. Um, there was a time when we used to say that it has to be a Faustian contract. You know what Faustian contract? It's a Japanese kind of a thing where you give your life to the company. You join a company and you just. And my father was like that. 35 years in one company and very proud of it and whatever. Like so, I don't think those days are anymore here, because there's, like as I said, when the choices are there and so many entrepreneurs are on the line. It's about innovation, right? And innovation cannot happen only in one place for all the time for everybody, right? So you got to realize only two things. I have like m- I have about 7 years on an average in a company. Last company I was in Ola. I spent 7 years. Okay, and it was like a startup, right, when I joined. And today, you all know Ola Electric and all that. Before that, it was General Electric, GE, as you know, various roles here and there. Again, 7 years. Infosys about 6 years. So what I'm trying to tell you indirectly is, please, when you want to move, first of all, you understand what have you delivered, what is the legacy you created in the company. Can you talk about that to your future employer? Right? It's not about like I have released these two products and I'm done. I want to experience one more thing. So it'll help me to grow or explore myself. Um, so I always believe that whether I'm hiring you people or I am like either you're one of your mentors or whatever, I would always suggest that you should have seen 3 or 4 cycles of your own performance in that particular role or in the organization. If not role, at least in the organization where you're assigned to. Because it will give you a complete 360-degree picture of what you are good at and not you're not good at. You get my point? Like if I have to do talent acquisition, campus, whatever, I need to know whether I'd really done it well or not. If I just move after 2 years because someone is giving me 20% more, then I again move from there after two, someone has given me another 20% more, which will always happen. There will always be another person who will give you 100 rupees more in the and top performer to hamesha hi hoga. Then what you're missing is the whole context and the best part of yourself, which says that okay, how do we grow as a person and a leader over a period of time, because you're missing the nuances of how you handle pressure. For example, when this was deep and then you come out of it, So that's the cycle I'm talking about. 2, 3 performance cycles, which will give you a much more rounded aspect of yourself. To if you're clear on that, and then you feel that okay, within see, it's all about employability. See, today, people like us, like me, we don't. For me, I see that I'm going to hire you individually, everybody, every year in the same organization. That's the way employability is today. How much are you employable in the organization? Not employment, employability. You know, how many people in this place would love to get you? Like Netflix has an interesting uh, social experiment, which they call about, right? The gatekeepers test. You know, if someone is leaving the company, you let him go unless there are 5 people saying no, this person should not be going. He's the asset to the company or whatever it is, and something similar to that. What I'm saying. So I'm not saying you should be Netflix or this and that, but what I'm trying to tell you is that in our organization, even including Sprinkler, you should, you should make sure that you're giving your best and you're seeing a down cycle and an up cycle, and that people know you as a whole, as a person, so that they can make decisions on you. Um, you go and change an organization, you start fresh. You make new relationships, you make new perceptions, you make new things. वो पहले 1 2 3 organizations तक चलेगा. But then when you strike the fourth organization, people will look at like, oh my God, he's a jumpy guy. He's a jumpy person. He doesn't really look at, he's not very self-aware. He or she doesn't take feedback, because someone would have given a feedback, this person has moved on. And maybe some other reason is there, but that's the perception you try to create. So the answer, just to summarize this question, it's, I'm not saying it should be a Faustian contract or a lifetime contract. It should be deeper enough to show the best and the worst of you. Okay, the downside and the upside you were seen, and then you take the decision. And typically, every company has that in a very different. What startups have done in our scheme of world is that what used to be like say a 10-year or 15-year cycle on these areas which I'm talking about, it has come down to let's say 4 or 5 years. A great person who's spent about 4 or 5 years is a decent startup exposure. Okay,
All
sure.
right, we won't be taking any more questions from the chat. We're nearing the end time. I'm really sorry about this. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much, Rohit, Arushi, and Ashish for coming over today and starting the day to Pravritti with such a wonderful leadership talk. We'll end the session now. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Priyanshi, and it was a pleasure for my team. Looking forward to interact more of you guys through Sprinkler and otherwise. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Arushi and Ashish as well.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.